Welcome to another edition of the Alcohol Addiction Podcast. I'm going to start this one by talking a little bit about the Stryver Manifesto. What the hell does that mean? Well, we are the truth about alcohol. That is our company name. That is our brand. That is our movement, right? The truth about alcohol, because we are driven to help people see what the truth about alcohol is, okay? And that is that alcoholism is an invisible and violent and dominant belief system. But what and who underpins that philosophy, who drives that philosophy, where is the kind of like the meat in this particular pie? It's not a very good analogy for a vegan, is it? Who are the aubergines in this vegetarian pie? Well, we are Stryvers. Our Strive Community Forum is where we do the work, and we call ourselves Stryvers, okay? So what does that mean? Well, a Stryver is willing to share shame, guilt, and vulnerability with people that they've never met. A Stryver says things and takes action that saves people's lives. A Stryver is in a constant war with an enemy that kills more people than terrorism, war, and murder combined. And if you ask the experts, they will tell you that the work that Stryvers do is impossible, yet we do it every single day. Stryvers are not alcoholics. Stryvers refuse to be anonymous. Stryvers do not drink alcohol. And Stryvers spend every waking moment helping other people do the same. Stryvers are well up for the fight because they know that you are always one final drink away from being a Stryver. My name is Davy. I am not an alcoholic. I refuse to be anonymous. I do not drink alcohol. I help other people that do the same. I am a Stryver. Please come and join us, okay? One person who has joined us this week is John. Welcome, John. And one person who has come back this week is Tony. Welcome back, Tony. And I want to talk about that a little bit because I think it's quite important. And where am I going to start? I'm going to start by saying this. John is from the UK. And when I read his initial introduction on the Strive Community Forum, it was like looking in the mirror. It's like going in a time machine all the way back to when I used to drink. Everything that he talked about was mirror image of the things that I struggled with when I was someone who drank alcohol, okay? And I don't think that me and John are alone. I think that how we feel, or how we were forced to feel by our indoctrination of alcoholism, the belief system, okay, is very, very common among young men throughout the UK. But here's the rub. Not only will they be suffering from the death effect, not only will the resistance be super strong with them, there is this manliness persona, this belief that a man is someone who drinks alcohol. So to not drink alcohol means you're the direct opposite of a man, whatever that is. Make that one up yourself. And I think that makes it even more difficult for men to try to give up alcohol than it is for women. You might think that that's controversial, but I really do think that kind of masculine association that goes with drinking alcohol is very different to the associations that females have with alcohol. Although, particularly in the valley where I grew up, that is changing with this drive and this want and desire for young women to be geezer birds, or from young women to drink as much as the men and to be seen as strong and integral parts of the tribe. It's almost as if biologically, women in the valleys have developed this belief that actually getting drunk as fuck and appearing to have as much fun as your men is actually an extra peacock feather, right? It's like, wow, look at me. You're going to find me irresistibly attractive, and you're going to want to have children with me because I could drink as much as you, okay? And that sounds bizarre, but that's how it looks when I'm in the valley or even in Cardiff, surrounded by women tottering on 6-foot high heels with belt-sized miniskirts just falling over the floor and head planting the concrete. So it's really difficult for men to get onto Strive. So when they do get on there, not a lot of them stick around, if I'm being honest. So John comes along and he posts on there and spills his guts out. And then he says two things. One, he says, I feel embarrassed about me opening up like this. And two, what do I do next? Well, one, let's cover that embarrassment. That embarrassment is more likely that John won't return, or his experience at Stryver will be very short-lived, because the embarrassment is just another form of resistance, and that will prevent him from coming on and sharing more in the future, right? One way that we beat that is by upskilling the moderators and myself at the Truth About Alcohol and Stryver Community Forum. The more highly skilled we are at providing the right empathy for John, the more likely that John is to stick around, and the more structured professional empathy that we provide, the more that creates this almost like unwritten rule of how we communicate to other Stryvers who are not moderators, for example, right? Like John. John's not a moderator now, but if we treat John in the right way, in the right empathic and supportive way, then John is going to use that same language when he then talks to somebody else, okay? Then he says, well, what do I do next? And Doug came up, Doug's a moderator. Doug came up with a really good response to that. And Doug said, you were doing the next step. You've gone from, holy shit, I think I got a fucking problem with alcohol, to logging on and checking in and saying, hi, my name is John. Here are the issues I'm facing. That is step one. What do you do next? You keep on embarrassing yourself. You keep on being vulnerable. You keep on feeling shameful. You keep on feeling guilty until you realize that it is perfectly acceptable and fine within the Stryver movement for you to feel those things, that they are not negative feelings. They are feelings that are very authentic and are from your essence. And we need to explore them, to poke and to prod them, and to talk about them and to think about them in order for you to strip away the identity that is being created through them, in order for you to find your true essence and then move forward, making your decisions based on your essence and not your fake identity. And part of those decisions you will make moving forward from your essence is to become a Stryver and to follow the Stryver Manifesto, i.e., ergo, you will not be someone who drinks alcohol. The reason I say welcome back, Tony, and that's very important because, you know, the same with John, is Tony came to Stryver Community Forum like John did, introduced himself, started going for it, but then, you know, started to feel a little bit shitty, had a drink here and there, and then started to think to himself, shame, guilt, embarrassment. And what happens all the time when that happens is people run away from Stryver, okay? It's only until you get through that kind of like hurdle. It's almost like a quicksand, right? At one point, you've got 3 runs to get onto Stryver. Then you drink or you make a decision in life which goes against your values. And then you hit this bog, this quagmire. And you need to get through that bog and quagmire in order for you to get to the dry run on the other side again, where you'll be perfectly fine. And a lot of people struggle with that quagmire. A lot of people struggle with that bog. And Tony did for a short while. And what I love about Stryver, and I want to communicate with you, is this, is that then we notice that people like Tony have got stuck in that quagmire, stuck in that bug, because they disappear from the everyday life of Stryver. And then we go looking for them. You know, we go looking for them. We put a virtual hug around them. We put virtual lock eyes to them and say, hey, Tone, what's going on? How can we help you? You know? So I just wanted to share that because I think it's super duper important. You will right now be feeling a lot of shame, guilt, worry, concern, anxiety, stress, embarrassment about going to Stryver and logging on and starting to do the work. But unless you take action to find your true essence, nothing is ever going to change, ladies and gentlemen, okay? Nothing is ever going to change. Right, on to my topic of conversation today. I don't have a guest. I'm going to be talking about the signal, okay? So Masha Gessen is a Russian-American journalist who is a very outspoken critic of the Russian President Vladimir Putin, okay? And Sam Harris recently interviewed her on his Waking Up podcast. And if you've never listened to the Waking Up podcast by Sam Harris, I really strongly suggest that you do. Because Sam Harris and the guests that he has on, more importantly, they engage in a conversation that makes us really think deeper about life. And when we can start to think deeper about life and the bigger questions in life, that inevitably will lead to us questioning why we make certain choices in our life that seem a bit dissonant, And one of them will be, why do I drink alcohol? Okay. So they're talking on his podcast about Putin's regime in Russia, immigration, and the Me Too movement, because Masha has been very outspoken and has written a number of articles on the Me Too movement. Okay. And you know, what were they talking about the Me Too movement was more about kind of like, okay, so you got the Harvey Weinsteins and the Bill Cosbys of this world who are like, you know, they're disrespectful behavior towards women is like reached an absolutely disastrous point, right, where they need to be dealt with by the authorities and should be outed and should be talked about. But at the other end, then you've got someone who, I don't know, wolf whistles to someone in the office and they've lost their job or something, and talking about how the voice or the, you know, the politically correctness of what people can say now without being attached to something like the Me Too movement. So they talk about that as well, which I think is really important. But there's a moment in the podcast where Gessen struggles to get her point of view across with Harris, almost in a kind of a little bit of a death effect kind of way, I think. Although as I am someone who interviews somebody, you can't get away from that, always thinking about the next question that's popping into your head. So maybe he just didn't really hear what she was saying. But basically, Harris is asking Gessen what Russia's public opinion is about Vladimir Putin and about his rule and about, you know, America generally. Okay. And when responding to Harris's questions about this, Gessen says, I wouldn't describe public opinion in Russia. All right. In a country where they have no public or no opinions, it's very difficult to talk about public opinion. And she says, I mean that literally. So she literally believes that there's no public and there is no opinion in Russia these days. And then Gessen then states that you can't have public opinion without a public sphere. Now, I don't know about you, but that was the first time I'd ever heard the word public sphere. So I looked it up, right? And for those of you that don't know what it is, the same as me, the public sphere is an environment in which people can come together and talk freely about societal issues and problems, and through those discussions influence political action. All right. Let me just move that over there a little bit so my eyes aren't darting around everywhere. Okay, let me just say that again. The public sphere is the environment in which people can come together and talk freely about societal issues and problems, and through those discussions influence political action. And Gessen says, without a public sphere, there is no public opinion. And Putin has destroyed that public sphere, which says to me that that Putin, through his reign and through his control of media, etc., and government and political agendas, he has kind of reduced the ability for the Russian public to talk openly about some of the most profound and philosophical societal issues that exist in Russia. They no longer feel comfortable talking about it because Putin has created almost like a totalitarianism regime that isn't a totalitarian regime, but it is, where people are just too afraid to talk about these kind of things. All right. Now, a few minutes then pass, and then Harris once again returns to the questions of public opinion, and Gessen starts to get angry. You could tell she starts to get angry. Angry may be the wrong word, frustrated. And Gessen says, look, I'm telling you that people in Russia don't have a view. They don't have a view on anything. And Harris then starts laughing and says, well, how is it possible that Russians don't have a view? And Gessen proceeds to explain to Harris that the most recent polls show that you can predict with 86% accuracy, which is quite phenomenal, okay, that Russians will say exactly what they've learned to say through TV. So if the television and, let's say, the newspaper that pops on there through their letterbox every morning is saying that the US is the enemy of Russia, then Russians will believe that is true. And if the TV in Russia and the newspaper says that America is the greatest thing since sliced bread, then Russians will believe that, okay? And what Gessen says is it's a matter of survival in a totalitarianism state to actively mirror the signal that comes from above. So in order to survive in Russia, she is saying the Russian people have to actively mirror the signal that comes from above. And who is standing above Russia? Vladimir Putin. All right. So how does alcohol fit in here? Why am I banging on about Russia and politics and Putin? I'm going to let you tell you, I know nothing about politics, right? But after listening to Gessen, talking to Harris, my mind started wondering at alcoholism, as it always does, okay? And this viewpoint that alcoholism is a byproduct of people known as alcoholics who drink too much alcohol, okay? That is the signal from above. The signal from above in the UK, where I live, is that alcoholism is a byproduct of people called alcoholics who drink too much alcohol, all right? So if that signal is coming from above, all right, that is the signal that we in the UK are going to actively mirror. And through my experience with the Truth About Alcohol and Strife Community Forum and Strife Movement, I know that that same signal is being beeped out in America, Australia, New Zealand, for example, and Canada, okay? Now, if you think about the average person in America being bombarded on a daily basis between 5,000 and 10,000 adverts per day, and that huge vastness between the 5,000 and 10,000 depends on how much time someone spends on the internet, okay, especially social media. And you consider that the alcohol industry is one of the biggest spenders in marketing in the world, all right? And in addition to that, the billions of dollars that the alcohol industry actually spends on targeted branding, that when you watch the TV, if you do so on a daily basis, minute by minute, okay, you are being subconsciously told a story that drinking alcohol is normal and pleasurable. Let's just take soap operas in the UK, for example. Coronation Street, all right, is set in and around the Rover's Return, which is a pub. EastEnders is set in and around, yes, you've guessed it, a pub. And the last I remember watching Emmerdale Farm, it was set in and around a pub. That's not sending you a message that alcohol is a nice, groovy thing to do. That is sending you a message that alcohol is life. That is the signal that is coming from above. Now, I contend, okay, that alcoholism is not the byproduct of alcoholics drinking too much alcohol, but instead it's an invisible, dominant, and violent belief system that kills over 3.3 million people a year, all right, and is one of the causal factors in over 200 illnesses and diseases. And this powerful belief system destroys the public sphere when it comes to any discussion on this topic, in the same way that Putin destroys the public sphere in Russia. So when you get to Russia, you've got a public, according to Gessen, all right, who don't dare criticize Russia out of fear of reprisal from the Russian government or supporting to Putin. And in the UK, it's no different when it comes to alcohol, because people who choose not to drink alcohol, people like me, okay, are afraid to talk about our decisions in the public sphere because of the fear of ostracization from our tribes, ridicule, and shame, all right? And it's for this reason that Stryve and the Truth About Alcohol's life-changing experience is a vital experience for you to take if you want to be someone who doesn't drink alcohol. Because for me, it is much greater than just stopping drinking alcohol, right? Stopping drinking alcohol is actually one of the easiest things you can do if you're not physically addicted to it. And 100% of people who are Stryvers or in the Stryve movement are not physically addicted to it. Then when they get on a 17-hour flight to Korea, they don't drink. When they have a child and they find that they're pregnant, for the next 9 months, they don't drink. Stopping drinking alcohol is fairly easy. It's how you remain stopped beyond that point. When you are subjected to a signal from above that tells you that drinking alcohol is normal and pleasurable, and alcoholism is nothing but a scapegoatism, okay, that allows us to say, or allows the resistance to get us to say, hey, look, I can continue drinking because I'm not as fucked up as that guy. Hence the reason and the word alcoholic also being scapegoat, okay? So us, Stryve and the Stryver Manifesto, we are the protectors of the public sphere when it comes to this discussion. We are not alcoholics. We refuse to be anonymous. We do not drink alcohol, and we refuse to actively mirror the signal that comes from above. And we spend every waking moment like this helping other people do the same. If you've got any questions whatsoever on anything that I just talked about, then please email me at thetruthaboutalcohol@gmail.com. And if you want to take the Truth About Alcohol life-changing experience, email me at that same address. And if you want to join the Stryve community forum and the Stryve movement and become someone who doesn't drink alcohol, then head to thetruthaboutalcohol.co.uk and you can sign up there. Thanks very much for listening.